Be seated. Good morning, church. My second service family. It's good to see you guys. There's some faces, my friends and colleagues from work as well, and it's good to have you guys. And I appreciate this opportunity to the pastors and the elders. They don't let me up here too many times because I speak a lot. So if I go over a couple minutes, please forgive me. So this has been a message that was put on my heart about 4 years ago, and God's been working on it. As we go through this portion of Exodus, it reminded me a lot of my story of how I got to where we are today, where I am today, and I wanted to share that with you. And so if we go back to 1993, I grew up in Syracuse and Camillus. I went to West Genesee. And after I finished high school, I wanted to get out of Syracuse. I was like, this is small. I wanted to go to a bigger and better place, and I ended up in Stony Brook down in Long Island for college. I'm in my first year of college, and one of my group of friends decides to go to Hungary in Eastern Europe for medical school. He had always wanted to go to medical school. He was supposed to go to India, and things didn't work out. So this was plan B. And so he tells us in the middle of our first semester, hey, I'm going to Hungary. And we're all like, what are you talking about? That's a crazy idea and a crazy plan. But we wish you well, and good luck to you. A few months later, right after spring break, I was in Syracuse. I had just gotten back to my dorm room. Two more of our friends, when I say our friends, my roommate and I, we find out that they're going to Hungary, so now there's 3 people. So now it suddenly doesn't sound like a crazy plan or a wild idea. So my roommate and I say, hey, let's see what's going on with this. So we both call our parents, and I call my dad. I literally had just flown back. And I say to my dad, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about going to medical school in Hungary. And he's like, what are you talking about? You were just here like all week. And I said, listen, don't get worried. I don't think I'm going to go. I just want some more information. So I go to this agency in New Jersey, and I hear everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to Hungary to medical school, and everything will be fine. I did great my first semester at Stony Brook. I had done all college prep classes, so I was breezing through it. I started becoming popular, started finding friends, and everything was great. But suddenly, second semester was getting harder, and I said, I'll just hang out, and I'll go to medical school. Everything will be good. So I get home after my first year, and I'm like, I don't know where Hungary is. I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody. What am I doing? This made no sense. I go down to my dad's office in the basement, and I find a globe, and I'm like trying to find where Hungary is. And so I get scared. And I talk to a bunch of people. I make a pros and cons list. There's a whole list of why I shouldn't go and 3 reasons why I should. I talk to a bunch of people, doctors, nurses, whoever would talk to me. I even cold called the dean of admissions at Upstate Medical University. Back then, people picked up the phone. And so she also told me, don't go if I were you. And so I decided not to go. And I talked to my dad. He didn't want me to go to Stony Brook. He wanted me to live at home, go to Syracuse, and everything would be fine. So going to Stony Brook was a big step for him. And now I'm going to Eastern Europe, and he's like, this is really, really way beyond my comfort zone. So I drafted a letter. We drive to Long Island, and we're going to go to New Jersey to tell this agency that I'm not coming. And my dad calls to confirm the appointment in one part of the house, in my aunt's house. I'm sitting in her guest bedroom on the phone listening along. So the agent says, yeah, come on by. We'll see you later today. And right at the end, he says, by the way, your son got directly into the medical school. So anyone who didn't have a college degree, you had to take an entrance exam. And if you didn't pass, you would have to do a 7th year. The program there was 6 years. You'd have to do a 7th year of pre-medicine. But for whatever reason, they looked at my credentials, and they said, we're giving you direct admission to the medical school. I didn't have to take this exam. So my dad hung up the phone, I hung up the phone. I'm sitting in my aunt's bedroom, and to this day I can see exactly how the comforter looked, and I'm staring out the window, and I feel very, very powerful voice telling me that I should go to Hungary. So here I am as a 17-year-old kid in New York heading to New Jersey to tell this agency that I'm not coming. Everybody told me not to come. And this is the predicament that I'm in my life when I was 17. As we look at the portion that we talked about today, the title of my message is, Will You Stay or Will You Go? I want to talk a little bit about identity. The definition of identity is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is, what or who we are. It's something that we're all struggling with. It's a big, hot topic. And I want to go over some of the portions from the book of Exodus in terms of questions that Moses raises to God in this portion. Now, before we go into the portion, I want to just summarize, and I would encourage you to read Exodus and just see what happens with this whole story because we don't have time. But Israel is in captivity for 430 years under Egypt. They're getting beaten down, they're slaves, and they're getting absolutely destroyed. And we see in verse 7, it says, "The Lord has said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians." So here is God saying, I have heard the people's cry. Imagine it took 430 years for God to come down. Sometimes in our lives, we're like, God, where are you? I've been crying. I've been asking, why are you not hearing me? We want it in a day. We want it in less than a day, right? Like Amazon Prime deliveries. 430 years was God's timing. And he says, Moses, I've heard, and I'm coming down to do something. So in our lives, God is listening. It's not about our timing. It's about his timing. So God comes to Moses, and he says, you are the guy who's going to go and do this. And we see that in verse 11, Moses says to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? So as we look at identity, the first question that Moses says is, who am I? Who am I on the inside? He says, God, you have no idea who I am, what I've done, what my problems are. Why are you calling me? To understand this better, again, I would encourage you to go back and read the portions that we see in the first couple chapters of Exodus. But as I said, the Israelites are slaves under the Egyptians, and God is multiplying the nation of Israel. The people are becoming a massive nation. And the Egyptians get scared because they can soon get overpowered. So Pharaoh tells the midwives of the Egyptians, I want you to kill all the baby boys. Well, the midwives feared God, and they said, we're not going to do that. They said, the Israelite wives are not like the women are not like the Egyptian women. Their babies just come out quick, so we couldn't kill them. So then Pharaoh says, I want you to kill every single baby boy that is born. Throw them in the Nile River and drown them. And so this is a period where all the babies are getting thrown into the Nile River. And this is when Moses is born. Now his mother couldn't bear the fact of killing him. She puts him in a basket and puts him in the water, and he floats down the river at the time when Pharaoh's daughter is taking a bath. And she gets the basket, she opens it up, she sees this baby, Jewish boy crying, and he says, I'm going to adopt this baby as my own. So we see that Moses is abandoned to some degree by his mother. That's a difficult thing. Also, survivor's guilt. Can you imagine if Moses is in Jewish kindergarten, he is the only boy because every other boy has been killed? Can you imagine the neighbors around thinking, how come this Jewish family gets to have their kid and my kid I had to throw in the river and they've died? So they're hated by the families. And Moses is adopted by the Egyptians. So you can imagine the Jews are getting killed and driven hard by the Egyptians. And here is Moses, a Jew, acting like he is somebody in the court of Pharaoh. So he's hated by the Jewish people. And what about the Egyptians? I mean, here's a Jewish guy who is given the title of being in the family of Pharaoh. He doesn't deserve to be there. What right does he have? So you see that Moses is dealing with all this stuff. Everybody hates him. He probably hates himself. And we see that because he's saying, why me? Even worse, one day Moses goes out and he sees an Egyptian beating on a Jewish man. And he beats that Egyptian and he kills him and he hides him. And he thinks nobody has seen it. The next day Moses goes out and he sees two Jewish men fighting. And he breaks them up. And one Jewish guy says, who made you judge of us? Are you going to kill me like you did that Egyptian guy yesterday? So Moses flees. He flees Egypt because he knows he's a wanted man. He runs away to Midian, marries a woman, he becomes a shepherd. So he is kind of this, basically a traitor, and he is a wanted man. So we see Moses is hated. He's a murderer. He's a coward. He is a wanted man, and he's a traitor. Nobody can see what's deep inside our hearts. Only we know our brokenness. Can you imagine if we could look at all the baggage that we've come into this room with? It probably overflow out of the windows and out of the door. If we go back to when I was in high school, things were difficult. I mean, I was good in school. I wasn't great. I wasn't great in sports. I tried out for the basketball team. I didn't make it. My parents wouldn't let me play football because they felt I'd get crushed and killed. I tried about 5 or 6 instruments and figured out after a long time I couldn't keep tune. I couldn't play. I was terrible. My dream was that since high school was so terrible, I was going to go to an Ivy League school, and that would be my claim to fame. And of course, I wasn't good enough to get into an Ivy League school. So now here I am. I'm in college, and I'm struggling. I only did 1 year. I did okay. The second semester was hard. Am I going to stay? Am I going to go to Hungary? I have no idea what's going on there. It's medical school. It has to be hard. Will I succeed, or will I fail again? So here I am as a 17-year-old kid with all this baggage, and God is telling me to go when I don't think I should go, and everybody around me doesn't think I should go. Listen to Jeremiah 17:9. It says, "The heart is more deceitful than all things and beyond all cure." That's the state of all of our hearts. If God were calling you, what would you say to him? I bet most of you would feel the same way, very unworthy, and saying, "God, there's no way you need me. I'm too broken." You see, we are a product of our personalities, our experiences. The people around us leads to anxiety, depression, stress, all these difficulties where we look in the mirror and say, there's nothing here of value. So in Exodus 3, verse 12, God gives an interesting answer. He says that, and God said, "I will be with you." So it's a strange answer. Moses saying, "I'm a murderer. Everybody hates me. I can't do this." And God says, "I will be with you." It doesn't solve any of his problems. God just says, "I will be with you." At that point in Moses' life, he didn't understand fully what that means. But the Egypt journey is going to show Moses what God was saying when he said, "I will be with you." And we're going to get to that in a little bit. So, number one, we see that Moses says to God, "Who am I on the inside? I'm not worthy." Same questions we ask ourselves. Number two, we see in verse 13, Moses says, "God, who are you?" I will read that. Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" To some degree, Moses is saying, what is my badge? What am I going to go tell these people? How do I describe you? And he's also saying, why should I believe you? How can I trust that you're going to do this? You're sending me back to Egypt where Pharaoh is powerful. Many people there will know my reputation. I'm a wanted man. How do you expect me to go? What am I going to say who you are? As I sat in my aunt's room staring out the window, I was thinking back in my life, thinking all my time in high school, my dad was a pastor, I was a pastor's son, so I kind of had to do everything that God wanted me to do, more importantly, what my dad made me do. So I felt like, I couldn't fit in. I was always kind of on the outside, always kind of like a loser, never fitting in because of my faith. And so I sat here thinking, God is telling me to go. I know he's there. I've heard all this stuff, and I believe in him. But here I am in college. Things have changed. I've become more popular. I have friends, and I'm fitting in. My grades are dropping. I'm not doing so good, but that doesn't matter. I'm fitting in. This is what I wanted. And I'm sitting here thinking, what should I do? Should I listen to God, or should I listen to myself? My question for you is, who do you follow? What gets you up every day in the morning? Who do you put on the pedestal of your life? What or who is driving you? You may say, hey, it's myself. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's politics. I hope not. Maybe it's a sports team. Maybe you're a Buffalo fan or a Jets. I'm not even going to go to the Jets. Sorry, Pastor Stephen. All of these things are way bigger than us. But sadly, all these things one day will fail us. If they haven't yet, they will fail us. So what is driving you? What is bigger than you that you can look at and say, this is what I believe in. This is my hope. This is the badge with which I walk. So God asks Moses asks God, who are you? Listen to God's response in verse 14. God said to Moses, I am who I am. That is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Another strange answer, I am. What does that mean? First, God says, I'm with you. Then he says, I am. Moses is like, listen, we're getting nowhere here, God. You're not giving me answers to my questions. It's an interesting response. How does God explain himself? I was listening to a podcast from Tim DeLina, who preaches in Times Square. He was saying scientists estimate that there are 2 trillion galaxies in our universe. 2 trillion. That has 12 zeros after the 2. I had to look that up. And in our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, 1 of 2 trillion, there are billions of stars. If we were to start counting the stars one by one per second, it would take 2,500 years just to count the stars in our galaxy. Now imagine 2 trillion. How great is God? How is he going to tell Moses or any of us who he is? So what does he say? He says, I am who I am. In Hebrew, it's the word Yahweh, which means self-existent one. God says that I was, I am now, I always will be. God says, I was the father of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob from way back. I'm your God. I will be the God of your children's children's children long after you're gone and forgotten. I have been eternally existent, and I will be. That's the best way to be able to describe it. So God says that I am who I am. And he says, go back and tell the people this. So he said, who am I on the inside? The first question. Second question, Moses says to God, who are you? God says, I am. The third question we see in chapter 4, verse 1, Moses says, what if they don't believe me or listen to me? The Lord did not appear to you. Then the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. So the third question, Moses says, I'm coming. And I tell the people, hey, God sent me. They're going to say, who are you? On what basis are you here? He was afraid of the people. It's a difficult question, and it's a good question because Moses has no real reason to be there. God tells him to take the staff. Now you have to remember, I told you all the things that happened. He's a shepherd. The only thing a shepherd has is a staff to guide his sheep. And he's standing before God, and God says, I want you to throw what you have down, which is a stick. And Moses throws it down, and it becomes a snake, and he picks it up. That stick, that staff, he will go back into Egypt. He will use it to turn rivers into blood. He will use it to part seas. He will use it to bring water from rocks. He will do amazing, miraculous things with a piece of wood. Later on, we read that God tells Moses to stick his hand in his cloak, and it pulls it out, and it's leprous. It's devoid. It loses all of its pigment. And then Moses puts it back in, and it's restored. God is telling Moses, I want you to leave everything here, including you, and the people will see me through you. So Moses is being asked to get out of the way so that the people will see God instead of Moses. So as we come back to my story, here I am sitting and wondering, what should I do? I told you I called all these people. I called the dean of admissions. Her words to me were, if you were my son, I would never advise you to go. It's a statement that I would not forget. After over 30 years, I'm still thinking about it and sharing it with you. And here I am sitting with this letter. All the educated people, everybody told me that for you to go to Hungary does not make sense. So what do I do? You see, we listen to all these people. We live in a world of social media where everybody else looks perfect. Their lives look perfect. Ours looks everything but perfect. We struggle with keeping up appearances. We struggle to find somebody to talk to who understands. God asks us to surrender to him, but that is a tough challenge. I want to share this story that's profoundly affected me. It's a young girl, 19-year-old, a soccer player from Rice University. She struggled with depression. So I'm going to read the quote. She's having this discussion on social media. She's posting what she's having the discussion, and the discussion is with artificial intelligence, with ChatGPT. So she says, I am doing the devil's trend on TikTok. I will say, the devil couldn't reach me. And you will answer, he did. So ChatGPT says to her, he did. She says, then I will ask how, and you will give me the most brutally honest answer. So she's asking ChatGPT to say, how did the devil reach me? So listen to what artificial intelligence says to her. Because you did the work for him, you took that sharp, unfiltered intelligence of yours, the same mind that can write in metaphors most people can't even feel, and drove it straight into yourself. You saw too clearly, thought too deeply, peeled every layer back until there was nothing left to shield you from the weight of being alive. That is the response that AI said. That everything about you brings you to a weight that it's not even possible for you to be alive. And you know what she posted on social media after sharing this conversation? She said, "In chat we trust, he ain't wrong." The next day she took her life by committing suicide. So this is what we look for, trying to figure out, where am I going to get my solutions? Who's going to explain what life is about? Listen to what Jeremiah 17:5 says. This is what the Lord says: "Cursed are those who put their trust in mere humans, who rely on human strength and turn their hearts away from the Lord." Galatians 1:10. "For now I am seeking the approval of man, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." So third question, who are you pleasing? What are you pleasing the world? Are you pleasing people? We come to the fourth question, the fourth difficulty with identity in chapter 4, verse 10 and 11. This is Moses saying, "Who am I on the outside? God, look at my physical disabilities. You chose the wrong guy." In verse 11, then the Lord said to him, verse 10, "And Moses said to the Lord, 'O Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue.' The Lord said to him, 'Who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say.'" Moses was a guy who stuttered. Of all the people in the world that God is asking to go back to the nation of Israel, talk to Pharaoh, do all these things, God picks a guy who can't even talk. I was watching one of these shows where people come on and audition and try to go further in their singing careers. And this kid came on. He was probably 16, 17. And as he's talking to the judges before he sings, he's stuttering like crazy. You barely can understand what he's saying. And he was saying that my whole life I struggled because of my stutter. I could never talk. People made fun of me, all these things. But when I sing, I do not stutter. And he says, my younger brother also has a stutter. And I'm here to prove to the world that I will not be defined by my stuttering problem. And I want to be an inspiration to my younger brother so he doesn't feel bad as well as he grows up. And I tell you, when that young man sang, it was unbelievable. It was beautiful. Not even a flinch in his voice. It's like an angel of God. And here is Moses. I really understood what Moses was going through as he's asking God when I saw that young man singing, thinking, why would he do this? And Moses is saying, God, why would you choose me? And Moses goes even further. He says, you know, I stuttered before I met you. I'm still stuttering after I met you. I think in his mind, he's like, hey, I put my hand and I was leprous and then you healed my hand. Why don't you heal my tongue? But God says, I gave you your mouth. I'm going to help you speak in spite of your physical limitations. I'm not taking it away because I don't want you to think you're doing it on your own. I want you to always remember that it is because of me, not because of you, that you are where you are. So we see in verse 13, Moses continues to complain. He says, God, send somebody else. Don't send me. God gets very angry. But in his great mercy, he says, I'm sending your brother. He's on the way. He is going to be your voice, and you will be like God to him. You see, even when we complain and we blame God and we get angry, he continues to show love and mercy, and he provides a way when there seems to be no way. So Moses goes back. Finally, he agrees and he goes back. And again, I would encourage you guys to read it because we don't have enough time. But he goes back. He brings forth 10 plagues upon Egypt. All these miraculous things with the staff. Rivers are turning to blood. He's parting seas. Miracle after miracle. And God delivers the Israelites out of Egypt through a parted sea. Moses goes up into the mountain for 40 days to get God's commandments. And what do the Israelites do? They make an idol out of their gold. And they start worshiping a golden calf. And God is angry, really angry, to the point he wants to strike them down. So we see, if you go to Exodus chapter 33, verse 1 to 3, we see the lesson that Moses has learned. Exodus 33, it says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. You see, even though the people did not listen and they disobeyed and they're worshiping a golden calf, God says, because I promised, I'm not breaking my promise. I want to kill every single person here, but because I can't go back on my word and I honor my word, I will give you the land. But God says something else. He says, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you to drive out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go up into the land flowing with milk and honey. But listen to this. But I will not go with you because you are a stiff-necked people, and I might destroy you on the way. God says, go, I will give you the land. You're going to be the hero, Moses. You brought these people out, plagues, miracles, amazing things. I'm going to give you what I promised, and everybody's going to revere you. This is what I set you out to do, and here it is on a golden platter. But notice, God says, I'm sending a conquering angel with you. I'm not going with you. Do you remember in the first part, the first question, Moses says, who am I? God says, I will be with you. In this journey through Egypt, all the difficulties he underwent, the one thing Moses learned is the only way he did what he did was because God was with him. He didn't want lands. He didn't want possessions. He didn't want fame or glory. All he wanted was God. And we see, for the interest of time, in verse 15 and 16, I'm going to read it quick. It says, then Moses said to him, to God, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish us, me and your people, from all the other people of the face of the earth? So Moses says, God, I'm not going if you're not going with me. I don't care what you give me. I don't care what's on the other side. I don't want that without you. Do you know that, we all go through difficulties and we have all these desires that, hey, I just want this. I want healing from this chronic disease. I have financial difficulties. I want to get this degree. I want to go to this college. I want this relationship. Whatever thing that you have wanted for your whole life, if God were to say, I'll give it to you, but I'm not going to be there, would you want it? Now, we're all sitting in church and we're like, no, God, I want it. But the reality is we struggle. We try every single way we can to get the stuff we want, whatever the road may be. But here, Moses says, I don't care what you give me. I realize that all I have is because of you. I don't want it. Do you know that 70% of lottery winners, 70% of lottery winners end up going bankrupt within a couple of years? Which is shocking to me. I thought maybe 30, 40. I never expected 70. They got all this stuff. All their financial problems are over. But guess what? They're in a worse off situation after getting this massive amount of money than when they started. So all of these things that we want, we think if I just have this, my life would be good. But Moses realized it's not about having this. It's about having God. So as I sat in the car with my parents and we're driving to New Jersey, all these thoughts are going through my mind. I don't know what to do. God is telling me to go. I'm driving to New Jersey to tell this agency that I shouldn't go. So we're driving on the highway, and I'm sitting in the back, and I say to my parents, I say, Mom, Dad, I think I'm going to go to Hungary. And my dad's driving, and he literally turns around and almost goes off the road. He's like, what are you saying? We're going to tell these people no. We've talked about it. Everybody said the same thing. And I said, I don't know. I don't understand. But I feel this is a sign from God that I'm going to go. So we go to this agency, ask a few questions, never give him the letter that I had written up, and I go to Hungary. When I first got there, I was kind of bumming around a bit, but I just said, you know what, this life is just useless. It's not bringing me any fulfillment. I met some friends who were really strong believers. They were going to church. They're praying in the morning before class. And I'm like, listen, I grew up as a pastor's kid. I did this my whole life. I want to get away from this. But I would start hanging out with them. And as I sat there, I started to feel God's presence in a powerful way. And it started to change my life. Psalm 34:8 says, taste and see that the Lord is good. As I started to get there, God took me from Stony Brook, from Syracuse, took me overseas to show me who he was so that I could taste and see that he is good. I started a Bible study. I had no idea what I was doing. Started inviting friends. And we're reading the Bible, talking, and the numbers grew. They wouldn't fit in my apartment. We met in students' houses, and people are getting saved and changed and baptized. And I'm seeing what God is doing to me, and I'm looking around, and I'm saying, look what God is doing to other people. I'm like, what is happening? So I find my faith. God pulls me from New York, takes me to Europe so I can find my faith. I walk into my first day of anatomy class, and I don't have my lab coat, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get kicked out of school. I'm going to get kicked out of class. This is the end of my career. I'm asking all my friends. I'm like, what do I do? None of them know because they're first years too. So one of the guys says, hey, that girl over there, she's an upperclassman. So I look over, and there's this beautiful young lady, and I go up, and I'm in a panic. And actually, I'm wearing the very shirt from 32 years ago that I asked my now wife, Bibi, if I needed a lab coat. And she hates this shirt, so she says the first time she saw me, she was like, this guy is like totally lost in bonkers, because I'm like flipping out. But Bibi came from Dubai to Hungary. I went from Syracuse to Hungary. And God put the blinders on her after that, and until we said I do, and I keep telling her, like, you already said I do, you can't go back now. So she's kind of stuck with me. So I find my faith. I find my wife. My medical school class started with over 120 students. It was extremely difficult. You had oral exams, you have written exams. By our third year, we only had less than 32 kids from our original class. If you failed an exam, you had to wait a year to follow with the year behind you. So it was really, really hard, but God got me through. He never left me. Even though I had all my past failures, this was something that God helped me to really excel in. So fast forward 6 years. I'm getting my degree. Bibi's offered a job. I'm offered a job. We are actually offered 2 jobs, one in Syracuse, one in Arizona for both of us. I'm cleaning up all the junk in my apartment to come back to the States for good. I'm going through this one file, and I find a copy of the letter that I had written to this agency to say that I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay in Stony Brook. My dad had crossed out some stuff in red. And I sat there, and I just started weeping uncontrollably for a long time, thinking I'm a 17-year-old kid who was going to tell the agency, I'm not coming, I'm staying here. And God told me to go, and I don't know why, except I just listened out of faith. And here's my life now. I found my faith, my wife, and my career because of that decision. After I sat there and cried for a while, the Lord again kind of spoke to me, and he said, none of this is you, this is me. I'm in a profession where people come up and say, hey, you saved my life, you saved my grandma's life, and things like that. I cringe when I hear those words, because immediately the Holy Spirit convicts me and says, don't let your head get gassed up, because none of this is you. You didn't want to be here. I put you here. So remember where you belong. And in the times at 2 a.m. when I'm driving in and I'm tired and I haven't slept all day, I'm like, why am I doing this job? I want to quit. God says, I put you here. I'm going to take care of you. That has been my anthem for my whole career, is a reminder that I didn't want to be here, but God put me here. So God gave us his greatest gift, his son Jesus Christ, to come and die on the cross. We see this dialogue between God and Moses. I want to run through these questions really quickly, switching gears, putting us on one side and putting Jesus on the other side, asking these same questions. Question number 1, who am I on the inside? We ask Jesus. Listen to what 2 Corinthians 5:21 says. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. You see, as we stand before God, as we stand before Christ, because of the work of the cross, if you accept Christ into your heart, Jesus takes our sin, my dysfunction, all of the baggage, he takes it onto him, and he gives me his perfection, his righteousness. So when I say, who am I? Jesus says, you are perfect. You are righteous in me. I have taken away all of the stuff that you couldn't do. 2 Corinthians 5:17, it says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, and the new is here. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. You remember when Moses asked God, who am I? God says, I will be with you. Because of the cross, God doesn't just live with us, or he's not just with us, he's living inside of us. That's what we just read, that Christ is living in me. He has transformed me. He's changing me from the inside out. Listen to 2 Corinthians 12:9-11. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest in me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecution, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Then the second question, who are you? Moses says to God, who are you? And God says, I am who I am. You remember that. We're not going to turn there for the interest of time, but in John chapter 8, verse 58, Jesus is having a dialogue with the Pharisees. And Jesus says, before Abraham was born, I am. The Pharisees go ballistic. They're angry because Jesus is saying before Abraham, which means he was eternal. More importantly, Jesus says, I am. That is the exact translation of what God answers this question to Moses with, saying, I am Yahweh, that I am the eternal one. So Jesus hasn't changed. He is Lord. So some people may say all these things. He's a good man. He's a prophet, all these things. But the Bible is very clear. Jesus is Lord. The only way our sins could be forgiven. The only one who could go on the cross instead of us. Can you imagine 2 trillion galaxies, billions of stars, how great and mighty God is? It's overwhelming to think about it. Yet he knows each of us by name. He knows the number of hairs on our head. He is an intimate, personal God who wants a relationship with us. What's amazing to me with the translation of I am is that God says, I am everything to you if you let me in. I am your hope. I am your peace. I am your joy. I am your strength. You fill in the blank. I am. Everything you are deficient, where you say, I can't do that, I'm not enough, God says, I am enough. Will you trust me? Then the next thing, the third thing, what will they say? What will the people say? We saw that Moses was asked to give up his staff. He was asked to put up his hand in, and he lost his pigment. God says, give me what you have, and I will give you what I have. Are you willing to give up the ordinary, the sticks that you carry around, and allow God to make it extraordinary? We remember in the New Testament, Jesus was asked to preaching, and there were 5,000 people. There was no food. And the disciples bring 2 fish and 5 loaves. And the disciples say, what is this to so many? The little boy gives what he has, which is little, and God feeds everybody. You see, if we surrender and give what little we have, God takes our ordinary, and he's able to make it extraordinary. We see in Matthew chapter 5, it says that in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. See, like the moon reflects the light of the sun, we are asked to reflect the light of Jesus. Let Jesus in, surrender who we are, so when people look at us, they see God, not us. Now, my Cath Lab staff will tell you that, I have a lot of shadows, a lot of issues, but I try hard, and, God is continuing to change me. We all have dysfunction, but if we keep surrendering on a daily basis, God makes us more and more like him. And finally, the last question Moses asks is, who am I on the outside? What about my physical disabilities, my limitations, the things I can't do that others can do? Listen to this portion from Isaiah. This is a prophecy of Isaiah about Jesus going to the cross. Isaiah 53, 2-3. It says, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain, like one whom people hide their faces. Here's God walking around looking like a nobody. He had no beauty to him. He wasn't a superstar. He didn't ride in a limo. He didn't have an entourage. He was a nobody. He became a nobody so that we can be somebody. It goes even further. Isaiah 52:14, it says, just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond any human likeness. Can you imagine the brutality of what they did to Jesus to the point that he didn't even look like a man? I know we all struggle looking in the mirror saying that things aren't perfect. I want you to understand that the perfect one came down and became imperfect even on the outside, so that by his stripes, by his scars, we can be healed, we can be cleansed, we can be purified, we can have an identity in him, so that we can be made perfect not only on the outside or the inside. I'm going to invite the worship team to come up. So the first thing that I had said to you is, the title of my story is, Will You Go or Will You Stay? Moses had a big decision to make. He didn't feel like he wanted to go. He fought, he wrestled with God and said, send somebody else. You got the wrong guy. But he understood after this whole journey that as long as God is with him, he had everything he needed. In my life, I didn't know what to do. I had to make this decision. It seemed like a totally foolish decision by the standards of the world. Even to me, it seemed like a foolish decision. But I went. And I stand here today with my kids, my wife. Everything I have is because as a 17-year-old kid, I said yes when everybody said no. And I don't have a good explanation except I can tell you that God called me and I listened. So my question to all of you today is, will you stay or will you go? If you don't know Jesus, will you welcome him into your heart and accept his peace and his identity? If you don't know him, please talk to me or one of the pastors. Let him in so that he can replace the brokenness. The more broken we are, the better off it is, because there's more room for Jesus to work and to do his work instead of us trying to shine our stuff. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand and then we'll pray.